You are a man over 55 years old and taking saw Palmetto, Finasteride, or Tamsulosin for your prostate? I need you to pay attention to what I'm going to present. Here is the truth that most men in their situation never hear from the doctor, never read the leaflet, and never find on the shelves of the pharmacy. This, without understanding the root of the problem, is how to place a Band-Aid on a wound that still bleeds inside. This presentation will show you exactly why.
How many times did you get up last night to go to the bathroom? Once, twice, 3, 4, maybe 5 times. And when you got there, what happened? You stood in front of the toilet, waiting, straining. And in the end, only a weak stream of urine came out that brought no relief at all. You went back to bed, stared at the ceiling for 20 minutes trying to fall asleep again. And 15 minutes later, the bladder alarm went off again. That is not life. That is silent torture. And the worst part is that most men simply accept this as a normal part of aging. They think this is just how it has to be after 55, 60, or 65. Saw palmetto is a palm native to the southeastern United States. And for decades, it was sold as the #1 natural solution for prostate problems. And listen, I'm not going to tell you that the active compound in this plant has no value. It does. The problem is not the plant itself. The problem is what happens to it after it leaves nature and goes into those shiny capsules you buy at CVS or Walgreens for $20 or $30 a bottle. The vast majority of saw palmetto supplements on the American market use a cheap extraction process, done on a large scale, that destroys between 70 and 90% of the plant's active compounds before the product even reaches the shelf. And when you swallow that hard capsule, the hydrochloric acid in your stomach finishes the job, destroying much of what was left. What reaches your bloodstream is such a tiny fraction of the active compound that your body barely registers it. That is why you take it for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, and still keep waking up in the middle of the night with the same urgency as always. You are not failing the treatment. The treatment is failing you. Now let's talk about Finasteride and Tamsulosin. These two are prescription medications, and I want to be very clear here. If your doctor prescribed either one, do not stop taking it without talking to them first. That is essential. What I want you to understand is the mechanism behind each one. Because when you understand how they work, you also understand the limitations that few doctors have time to explain in a 15-minute appointment. Finasteride is a 5-alpha-reductase enzyme blocker. This enzyme is responsible for converting your healthy testosterone into a much more aggressive hormone called DHT, which stands for It is the silent, progressive buildup of DHT over the years that causes prostate cells to multiply uncontrollably, expanding the tissue and squeezing the urethra like a garden hose being stepped on. Finasteride blocks part of this conversion, and it works for many men. But it comes with a cost that often does not come up in the initial conversation with the doctor. Reduced libido, erectile dysfunction, and in some cases a mental fog that men describe as feeling like they are thinking inside a fish tank. This happens because when you block DHT production aggressively and artificially, you also affect other hormonal processes in the male body. The body is an integrated system, and changing one part without considering the others has consequences. Tamsulosin works in a completely different way. It does not treat prostate growth. It relaxes the smooth muscles of the prostate and urethra to allow urine to flow more easily. It is like loosening your belt when your pants are too tight. The relief is real, but the pants are still the same size. It can cause a sudden drop in blood pressure when you stand up quickly, especially at night. This is called orthostatic hypotension. And for a man of 60, 65, or 70 getting up at 3 in the morning in the dark to go to the bathroom, it represents a real risk of falling, which can have serious consequences. I am not here to demonize these medications. They have their place and preserve the quality of life of many men. But there is a conversation that needs to happen, and it rarely does. Now, let me show you the other side of this equation. The side the pharmaceutical industry has no interest in sponsoring large, expensive studies to prove, because you cannot patent a tomato or a pumpkin seed. To understand why your prostate is causing all this trouble, you need to visualize something very simple. Imagine your bladder as a party balloon. When it is full, it needs to empty completely so you can feel real relief. Just below that balloon, there is an exit channel, and that is where your prostate sits. In youth, the prostate is the size of a small walnut. It stays quiet, discreet, without drawing attention. But with advancing age and the progressive attack of DHT that I mentioned earlier, this tissue begins to grow. First, it becomes the size of a large walnut, then a lemon. In more advanced cases, it can reach the size of a golf ball or even larger. And as it grows, it squeezes the urine exit channel. The result is that when you go to the bathroom, the bladder can never empty completely. There is always some residual volume left inside, sometimes 50 milliliters, sometimes 100 milliliters or more. 15 or 20 minutes after you return to bed and begin to drift off, your nervous system detects this residual fluid and sends an alert signal to the brain. You wake up startled. The deep sleep cycle, the REM sleep responsible for restoring your body and mind during the night, is brutally interrupted. And this repeats itself 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a night in more severe cases. Chronic deprivation of deep sleep consistently raises your cortisol levels, the stress hormone. Elevated cortisol increases blood pressure, disrupts blood sugar levels, suppresses the immune system, and, ironically, further suppresses testosterone production. It is a vicious cycle that feeds on itself. Age is not the culprit. And here is the part I really want you to understand today, because this is where everything changes. Over millions of years, nature developed specific compounds that interact with the male hormonal system in extraordinarily precise ways. And over the last 30 years, modern science has finally begun to map these mechanisms with serious clinical studies. Lycopene is a carotenoid antioxidant that gives ripe tomatoes, watermelon, and red guava their intense red color. But here is the secret. Almost nobody knows about how to consume it effectively. If you eat a raw tomato in your salad, your body's absorption of lycopene will be very low. This happens because the compound is trapped inside the vegetable's fibrous cell walls, and your digestive system cannot break down those walls efficiently enough to release the nutrient. The discovery that changed everything was this. When you heat the tomato, the cell walls break down, and the lycopene is released in a much more bioavailable form. And when you combine that cooked tomato with the healthy fat, such as extra virgin olive oil, absorption increases dramatically and can be up to 20 times higher than with raw tomato. But the most fascinating part is not just the absorption, it is where the lycopene goes after it enters your bloodstream. Studies have shown that this compound has a specific affinity for prostate tissue. It concentrates preferentially in the prostate, where it acts as an antioxidant shield against the inflammatory process that fuels uncontrolled cell growth. The second compound is beta. This is a phytosterol found in significant concentrations in pumpkin seeds and certain cold-pressed vegetable oils. Beta-cetosterol works in the male body as a natural biological blocker of the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, the same one that converts your good testosterone into harmful DHT. The fundamental difference between natural beta-cetosterol and pharmaceutical finasteride is selectivity. The natural compound acts more gradually and in a more integrated way, without the aggressive blockade that can compromise other hormonal processes. It is the difference between using a scalpel and using a hammer. The third compound is zinc. This mineral is the most abundant in healthy prostate tissue, and that is no coincidence. Zinc actively participates in dozens of enzymatic processes that regulate cell division in the prostate. One of its most important functions is inhibiting the activity of 5-alpha, working in synergy with beta-cetosterol to create a double barrier against DHT buildup. The problem is that zinc absorption decreases significantly with age. The stomach of a 65-year-old man produces less hydrochloric acid than that of a 30-year-old man. And stomach acid is necessary to convert dietary zinc into an ionized form the intestine can absorb. It is a cruel paradox. Exactly when your body needs zinc the most to protect the prostate, it becomes less efficient at absorbing it from food. The fourth compound is quercetin, found in high concentration in onions, especially red onions, and also in apples and broccoli. Quercetin is a flavonoid with powerful anti-inflammatory properties. Specific studies on prostate tissue have shown that it can reduce the expression of inflammatory markers, that contribute to the growth and discomfort of BPH, benign prostatic hyperplasia. If you still haven't taken the opportunity to check the link I pinned in the first comment below, or if you are watching on television or computer, you can point your phone's camera at the QR code appearing on the screen. There you will find the most advanced American formula that brings together all these compounds I mentioned in the exact clinical dosage and with the bioavailability your body needs to truly feel the difference. But first, stay here because I still have important information to share with you. Why is diet alone not enough? And the honest answer is that diet helps, and I always recommend that my patients include cooked tomato with olive oil, raw pumpkin seeds, red onion, and broccoli in their eating routine whenever possible. These are real allies for your longevity. But there is a mathematical reality we need to face. To obtain the clinical dosage of lycopene that studies associate with the reduction of inflamed prostate tissue, you would need to consume amounts of tomato extract that are simply impractical in daily life. We are talking about kilos of cooked tomato per week consistently, without missing a single day. For beta-acetosterol in therapeutic concentrations, you would need volumes of pumpkin seeds that would cause significant gastrointestinal discomfort in any man over 60, whose digestion no longer works as efficiently as it did in his early 20s. Modern extraction technology exists precisely to solve this problem. Concentrated cold extracts, standardized to ensure the exact percentage of active compounds, and formulated with cofactors that increase bioavailability, can deliver to prostate tissue what conventional foods simply cannot do consistently and measurably. And that is simply the difference between trying to put out a fire with a glass of water and using a pressure hose suitable for the size of the problem. Do not accept living tired. Do not accept waking up 4 times a night as if it were inevitable. Do not let a treatable physical problem keep stealing your nights, your energy, and your quality of life. You have spent your entire life building something. You deserve to have the health and energy to enjoy what you built.